Oh
and
my
we can
God,
talk
get the
about
hell out of here.
We can
dude.
talk about Rodgers.
Get the hell out of here.
Okay, what is the need to bring up the Yankees?
It's just stuff to bring up because
Are you kidding me? Come on, dude. This came out of nowhere.
not. Clemson is a top team. Don't start with that. Clemson's a top team, no doubt, 100%.
Unless they're on Saturday, then they might move down.
Welcome back to Go Chat. We are back with episode number 54. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you're not, welcome back. We got a great episode for you guys. 54, we always start with the go of the number. Tommy's been having some really controversial go to the numbers in the past few episodes, so I'm not going to start with him. I want a little better picks. I'm going to start with Connor Wood.
Well, I don't like the trash talk here to Tommy at the beginning of the episode. I mean, he is mentioning good players. Maybe not
Adam
up
Wainwright.
not
He's
up
a
to the
good
caliber-
player.
Not the
Okay.
caliber of the players that we are picking, but they are good players. But for number 54, I do have to go with Brian Urlacher of the Chicago Bears, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 41.5 sacks, over 1,000 career tackles, and he only had 4 years in the NFL without 100 tackles in a season. He did get elected into the Hall of Fame. Brian Urlacher, go to the number 54.
Listen, Tommy, it's all love. The trash talk is all love from my side. Hopefully going to yours. Hopefully you're accepting it instead of like previous
appreciate it.
times. But Tommy, I want to hear who's your go to number 54.
My go the number 54. It's going to be a baseball player once again. I don't think that's a surprise for anybody. It's going to be Goose Gossage, former reliever for the New York Yankees. Not just the Yankees, though. He was with like 6 or 7 teams. He played all over the league. He had a 3.0 career ERA, which, it's respectable. 124 career wins. And he has a lot of great accolades. He is a Hall of Famer. He's a 9-time All-Star, World Series champion with the Yankees. He was outstanding his whole career. And I have to go with Goose Gossage today.
All right, so Connor's going with Brian Urlacher. Tommy's going with Duck Duck Goose. Mike, who are you going to go with?
I'm not going with the children's game. I am going with Randy White. He was a defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. He absolutely wreaked havoc on that line during the 70s and the 80s. 9-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro. He's a Super Bowl champ, and he has a Super Bowl MVP. Along with that, he's a part of the Hall of Fame and the 1980s Hall of Fame team. Unfortunately, the NFL did not start counting sacks until 1983, so there's not really many stats to support my stance here. But if you go back, you'll get at like any of like the game recaps or anything like that, you'll see Randy White's all over it. I mean, this guy just tore offensive lines apart, and he was the biggest reason why the Cowboys were so dominant in the 70s.
That's another great pick. Myself, I'm going to go with Brian Urlacher. I'm going to agree with Connor. He was a stud for the Bears. And I just remember watching him too. Obviously not a fan of the Bears myself, but just having him on the other side of the field of that Packers offense, it was always scary to go against him. And you look at the consistency that he had. I don't know if I can't talk for Randy White or Tommy's guy, but Brian Urlacher, I just don't remember Tommy's guy's name. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that right now. But Brian Urlacher was a very consistent player for that Bears defense. And, historically, the Bears defense, we touched on it many times with Connor's picks. That Bears defense has historically been amazing throughout their whole franchise. So Brian Urlacher is my number 54, absolute beast on the Bears defense.
Yeah, I do just want to mention that this was the third Bears linebacker that I've picked between 50 and 54 between Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus, and now Brian Urlacher. So definitely the Monsters of the Midway are reigning big here in the early 50s.
Tommy, maybe you could tell me a little bit about your guy. So you said he was on, how many teams was he on?
Too many.
Oh, I counted. It was actually 9 teams. He played all over the league. He debuted in 72 and he finished his career in 1994. So he was around for a long time as well.
Did he continue that 54? I'm always curious to see if people continue their numbers throughout going through many different teams. Because
he was 54 for every team he played with.
That's pretty cool.
I'm gonna just say this right now. Go to the number. Don't get passed around like that. I'm just gonna say. If he really was that special, he probably would have stayed with just a couple teams. I'm just throwing that out there.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It's not disputable, Mike. He's a Hall of Famer. Goose Gossage, I already said everything before, but he was great.
I don't really think we can distribute, I mean, a GOAT based on how many teams they've played on either. There's been multiple times when we've picked players who have been on multiple teams.
Oh yeah, I know, but the point I'm just trying to make now is that he
Nine's
got
a big
passed around
number.
a lot. I mean, 9 different teams. That's a third of the MLB. I mean, I was just surprised. I'm not saying that Goose Gossage wasn't a great player, but I'm just saying I don't think he compares to Randy White or Brian Urlacher.
Well, and I
Any
just
response,
just to
Tommy?
defend Tommy's claim. I mean, as a relief pitcher in the MLB, it is much more likely to be passed around, maybe rather than a big time bat in a lineup or a starting ace pitcher. Where a relief pitcher, they can be afforded to be expendable and move around on teams. Now, Gossage with a 3.0 ERA and all the stats that Tommy did list make him one of the best relief pitchers of all time. But him being on 9 teams, I don't think should discredit his resume at all. I think in due part to the position that he played.
I agree. And a lot of those teams that he played for, he wasn't with them necessarily the whole year. Towards the end of his career, he was traded a few times. He would spend, half a year here, half a year there. He was a valuable bullpen piece. And, like you said, Connor, they would get traded every once in a while. And he was with a lot of teams, but he put together a really solid career.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to wrap up a great go to the number 54 conversation. We're going to be coming up with our next topic next.
Welcome back to Go Chat, and right now we are going to go over some overrated teams in the NFL. Just some teams that we think are just a little bit overhyped. Connor, I'm going to swing it to you first.
So at the beginning of the season, we did a predictions episode, and I mentioned in the AFC North that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to win the division. And a lot of you guys looked at me and you guys were thinking that I was kind of crazy. Matt and Mike specifically saying that there was no way Baltimore was going to lose that division after the year they had the year prior with Lamar Jackson winning the MVP. Now I look like a genius. Pittsburgh's 10-0. They have beat the Ravens, and the Ravens are an overrated team in the NFL. We saw them drop a game to the Titans on Sunday in overtime that they had. They had that game throughout 3 quarters, and they let it slip away. Ryan Tannehill definitely played a good 4th quarter, and then Derrick Henry came alive in overtime. But historically, the Ravens have been a good team over the past couple of years, and I'm just not seeing that same flair. And I also said at the beginning of the year that I never thought we would see the same season from Lamar Jackson again, and I think that's reigning absolutely true. He's trying to change his game. He's trying to pass more than he's running now. And the running is what got him the MVP last year. And now the passing isn't where it needs to be as a quarterback in the NFL. The team is struggling. I'm at the point where I don't even necessarily know for certain if the Ravens get a wild card spot in the AFC. I definitely think the Ravens are a top overrated team in the NFL.
Okay, strong take there by Connor. Matt, what do you think?
I don't think it's as strong. I mean, are the Ravens even in it now? I don't think they're like either last or like about to be in the hunt after that loss. Because I know that because there was a lot of 6-2 teams, or would it be 8-2? 8-2 teams.
They're the 3rd team in the AFC North. Cleveland Browns are 7-3.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a strong take at all. But they're little tidbit. They're actually favored to win all 16 of their games before the season, even against the Chiefs, which I thought was kind of funny. But for overrated teams, I'm going to go to the NFC. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw what Tampa Bay can do, but we've also seen Tampa Bay on some pretty rough games. I mean, I'm highlighting the Bears game, highlighting the Saints game, highlighting the Rams game. Honestly, I thought towards the end was pretty rough for them. We saw them demolish the Packers. We saw them have a really good game against Carolina, Los Angeles, you want to name it, whatever. I just think that they're way too overhyped because we came in and Tampa Bay was adding Tom Brady to their roster, Gronk to their roster, Leonard Fournette, and then now AB. I honestly don't understand how they're not first, because with that aerial assault and then that defense coming up clutch, I just think they're overrated. I still think they're obviously a playoff team. They're going to make it to the playoffs, but I kind of saw the truth of them last night and a couple weeks before against the Saints. Is I honestly think they're kind of phonies. They're kind of wishy-washy, week in and week out phonies that I don't think are going to make it to the Super Bowl, to be honest. So that's my team I'm going to highlight. Let you guys go around and see if there's any more teams I want to highlight.
Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Matt. I think that the Buccaneers are an overrated team, but at the same time, like you said, Matt, they have so much talent on that team. They have Tom Brady. They have Gronk, who's not what he once was. They have Antonio Brown, who he's not what he once was either. Leonard Fournette, um, who else? Ronald Jones. They have some really talented players on that team. And at times, as you said, Matt, we've seen glimpses of that, what they're capable of doing, but they're not able to do it on a consistent basis. They're 7-4 as it stands right now. You mentioned that Rams game. That's one that they really should have had. And I don't want to take anything away from the Rams either, because they're at the top of that division there in the NFC West. But, that's a game that they should win if they're, living up to all the hype that people were giving them preseason. Many expected them to win the division. Personally, I think I had the Saints in that episode where we talked about it, but I think this team can certainly, make their mark in the postseason. But I'm not so sure because, like you said, they haven't been able to do that week in and week out. They have 4 losses here. They really have to start winning the majority of their games remaining here on the schedule, because the Saints, they're a really good team. And we talked about before as well that this is a time where they could potentially gain some ground with Drew Brees being out. So we'll see what happens. But the Bucs are the team for me that's overrated.
Well, we're still on the topic of Buccaneers. I'd also like to highlight the Giants game. I mean, that was a really close game, and I think it came down to a 2-point conversion, maybe to tie the game. And you could call it controversial play if you want. I honestly thought the refs made the right play, but some people swayed the other way. Whatever you want to call that, that's still a really close game, and nothing to take away from the Giants. I just don't think the Giants are on the Tampa Bay's level. Maybe the Giants are on the top of the NFC East level at this point, seeing the NFC East, but I just don't think that. I thought the Buccaneers should have won that game, to be honest.
And I mean, how much of the blame for the Buccaneers goes on Tom Brady and his miscues, so to speak? I mean, in 2019, he only had 8 interceptions thrown, and now in 2019, he only had 8 interceptions thrown, and now through this season, he has 10. And we're only through week 12 of the NFL. Now, we do know that Bruce Arians' offense is take shots down the field, and Tom Brady is that 3-step drop and let the ball go kind of player, type of quarterback. And we see him taking more shots, and he has completed the least amount of passes, 20 or more yards down the field in the NFL this season at 32 incompletion. So, I mean, where does the fault lie? Is it Tom Brady, or is it the offensive play call?
I mean, even with, we talked about the Patriots. Tom Brady had no weapons there, and now he's going to Tampa Bay. He has 3 top 10 players at best. I mean, Antonio Brown, if he's once was, which he played, I thought, great last night, given that he was out for a year or whatever, he was a top 5 wide receiver when he had his whole drama and just left the league. Mike Evans, in my opinion, is a top 10 receiver. I mean, did you see that touchdown he had last night? That was amazing. He dragged like 3 Rams players or whatever. And Chris Godwin, we know what Chris Godwin can do. And honestly, he could slide into a top 10 wide receiver too. And I don't know. It's just, you made a good point on the miscues and the interceptions. I don't know who you could blame, to be honest. But I'll let Mike talk. He hasn't talked yet.
No, I think on the Bucs, I think just the inconsistency is what is preventing this team from, reaching the Super Bowl heights and expectations that a lot of people like myself thought that they could reach this season. We've seen them destroy the Packers and the Panthers and the Raiders, right? But we've also seen them fall short in prime time against like the Rams and the Bears, right? And I just don't think Tom Brady, for some reason, he has not performed well in those primetime games. Like, I'm not sure why. And last night was probably the worst game he played all season. When he got the ball back with 2.5 minutes left, and he only needed a field goal, and he threw that ball. It was horrible. It was 10 feet. He overthrew Cameron Brate by 10 feet. I mean, I don't know what he was looking at. I don't know how he didn't see the safety come over, but he played miserably that last night. Like, I understand Jared Goff was throwing a party to Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, but last night the blame goes on Tom Brady. He played absolutely horrible. Even his first pick was all on himself as well. He didn't play well, and last night was all his fault. But if the Bucks can somehow put all these talented pieces together, I still think that they can win a Super Bowl.
Mike, I do just kind of want to counterpart in the fact that I don't think last night was Tom Brady's worst game as a Buck. It had to have been the game against the Saints. He just looked awful. The offense looked really bad, and he had 3 interceptions thrown in that game versus 2 really bad ones last night. Definitely both very low points throughout the season, but I would say that the Saints game was worse, considering it was a big game at the time, a division rivalry, and he didn't perform.
No, that's definitely a fair point. I was just more emphasizing this game just because they had like an actual chance. They got blown out in that game against the Saints. And I just think Tom Brady needs to be more consistent, which is really weird of us to say, because for the past 20 years, he's been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the whole league. But anyways, I'm going to go to my overrated team. I'm going to go off the board here. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. And yes, the Seattle Seahawks are a really good team. Their offense is fantastic. Russell Wilson is one of the top 2 players in this league right now. But they will not sniff a Super Bowl if their defense continues to play like this. And yes, I understand it played a little bit better the past couple games, right? But it's nothing to be proud of. You know what I mean? Like, this defense is absolutely horrible. It allowed 44 points to the Bills, 37 to the Cardinals the first time that they played, 27 to the 49ers with Nick Mullins as the quarterback and George Kittle out. And the past 2 weeks, like I said before, it's been better. But once they start playing like those much better teams like the Saints and the Chiefs and the Steelers, they won't be able to win those games. Their defense will not come up to the task, and they just are not capable of winning a Super Bowl if their defense doesn't improve from here on out.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that point there. I definitely think Seattle is towards the top of the list for overrated teams. I mean, they wasted a bunch of draft picks on Jamal Adams, so to speak. I hate to mention this trade again, but there is relevance in the fact because he missed 3 games earlier in the year with an injury, and he comes back and he's not able to do anything. And he had a shoulder injury in the game a couple weeks ago where he went to make a tackle and it seemed like he was scared to hit the runner. He backed up and allowed, I don't remember who the runner was, but I think it was in the Buffalo game. I think he allowed Zach Moss to go into the end zone and score through his gap because he didn't want to hit him. Where when we're wasting that much draft capital on a player who you're bringing onto your defense to supposedly make the team better, and it's not working out, I think that's definitely to blame. Whether we blame front office or Jamal Adams for the lack of play he's had this year, that's the big question. But when we're bringing in big players like that, and we're seeing second-year players like DK Metcalf rise to the occasion with Tyler Lockett as his counterpart, and they have a 6-4 record to show, or 7-3 record to show. I think this is a much better team than their record.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you guys. I think the only thing that's going to keep Seattle is their offense. You know, if Russell Wilson's going to outduel the quarterback, then they'll win. And obviously he has DK Metcalf, who we've seen has been an amazing wide receiver, and Tyler Lockett too. So yeah, I would say they're a little overrated. I don't know. I actually don't know if they're a little overrated. I mean,
I just think
they're towards the side of overrated. I'll agree with you that, but
I just think a lot of people view Seattle as a Super Bowl contending team, and I don't think that they're getting past the NFC Championship game. I don't even think that they're going to win in the divisional round. I honestly don't. I just think that when you get to those top tier teams in the NFL, they have both a good defense and a good offense. They will just be able to exploit Seattle's weaknesses so easily.
I think a lot of it's going to come down to matchups too, especially in the NFC. I mean, we got the Saints right now. The Saints are on first. Buccaneers are sixth, I want to say, and the Rams. What are they, like second, third? I think Packers are third, Rams are second. So it's a lot of it's going to come down to matchups. Obviously, that 5 seed is going to be incredibly blessed going in, knowing they have to play the NFC East. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to matchups, depending whether who's playing who. And I think the NFC is wide open. I still think it's wide open. I don't know who's going to win it. Obviously, the Saints are my favorite so far, but when it's coming down to Super Bowl right now, I honestly think it's either going to be the Chiefs or the Steelers winning that Super Bowl, because I don't think the NFC has any top teams to compete against those two powerhouses in the AFC.
I do agree. And while we're on the conversation of AFC, I do want to mention another team, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Now, I did mention before how I talked about Pittsburgh at the beginning of our prediction show. We also all mentioned that we believe that the AFC East was Buffalo's division to lose. I do remember Matt said that New England still did have a chance, but now we're looking at the AFC East, and it's Buffalo at 7-3, and then Miami at 6-4, just one game back. And Buffalo's schedule does look difficult. Their last 6 games, they have the Chargers, who are 3-7, but all 7 of those losses have come within one possession. The 49ers on Monday night, the Steelers on Sunday night, then they have the Broncos, the Patriots on a Monday night, and then the Dolphins to finish the season. And we've seen Josh Allen in a Tuesday night game, or I think it was an early Monday night game earlier this year against the Chiefs. And historically, throughout Josh Allen's small career in the NFL, he has struggled in primetime games. So half of his schedule the rest of the year being in primetime is a little questioning for Buffalo. I ultimately think that week 17 game that is in Miami could ultimately determine who's going to win the AFC East. So for that reason, I think I'm going to have to say that Buffalo is a little overrated, because we all thought, and a lot of the sports world thought, that the departure of Tom Brady meant that it was the Buffalo Bills' time to shine. And before we ring that bell, I think it's time that we consider the Miami Dolphins as a team there in the AFC East.
I don't think Buffalo's overrated, in my opinion, because both of us had the Patriots. Don't bring me down on the ship saying that I thought it was the Patriots or the Bills division to lose. We both had the Patriots.
Both clowned me when I said the Bills were the kings of the AFC East, and you guys both picked the Pats to win the division. So it wasn't just Matt.
I completely forgot that I had picked the Pats. I guess I did. No, that's totally fine.
He doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't.
I'll accept it. But Mike, for you to say that Buffalo Bills are the king of the AFC East, you said on here just a couple weeks ago that Miami has a legitimate shot.
Yeah, I said that the Bills were the kings of the AFC East at the beginning of the season. I didn't think that Miami would emerge like this and really band around their defense and actually win a lot of good games. They definitely should have beat the Broncos this past week. This past weekend was very disappointing. They just absolutely got battered by the Denver Broncos offensively. I think Tua got sacked 7 or 8 times, and he had to get taken out of the game because he just couldn't handle the pressure. And they did end up losing that game. That was a game they 100% should have won. I still think the Bills are going to come out on top, but I do think Miami's going to make the playoffs.
I don't know. We've seen a lot of close Bills games throughout the season. I mean, let me just go through really quick and count. I mean, 1 possession, 1 possession, 1 possession, 1 possession, 1 possession, 1 possession. I mean, 5 of their 7 wins have been by 1 possession.
But they're still getting the job done.
Now, absolutely. But when we do face better teams, as they are coming up, I mean, their big losses have been to the Titans and the Chiefs, who are atop the AFC right now. But I don't know why you're making.
Yeah. So how are you going to say they lost to the Chiefs, Titans, and Cardinals, and the Cardinals was on a Hail Mary?
Yeah.
But they have good teams coming up. What I'm saying is that these 1 possession games that they won over the Jets before, 18-10, That's not going to work against these better defenses in the NFL. The Patriots have a very good defense. The Dolphins' defense is emerging. The 49ers' defense is still good without their front four. The Chargers showed that they have had a good defense in the past. The Steelers are historically good, and the Broncos are good. I mean, those are all great defenses.
Right, but a team's not going to be overrated for losing to really good teams. That's not how it works.
I'm not saying they're overrated for losing to those teams.
I thought you brought up them as
Literally-
overrated in the first place.
They are overrated
Why?
because they're not producing what everyone thought they were.
I mean,
People expected after the first couple weeks of the season, people expected Josh Allen to be atop the MVP race right now, and he's just
He was, and then he fell off after like 3 bad games. But now he's playing back at that
fell off after
production.
3 bad games. 3 bad games is a fifth
my
of the
God.
season.
That doesn't mean that they're all of a sudden overrated. Like, I don't know why I can't believe in my life I'm defending the Bills about something, because I honestly am. I'm not a fan of Bills fans because I'm from Syracuse, so I see Bills fans all over, and it's not something I like to see. But they're not an overrated team. I think they're perfectly rated, if I had to say anything.
they're 7-3. They are a really solid team, and they can make some noise in the playoffs.
I disagree about making any noise in the playoffs. We saw it last year. They had a 13-point lead against Houston, and they blew it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but that was really bad decision. Okay, again, I don't like defending the Bills or Josh Allen. I already had to do that once already. I'm not a huge fan of Josh Allen, but still, I think his decision-making has at least gotten a little better, because you look at that game, he did like a lateral out of bounds or something. It was just stupid. I think his decision-making is just going to be better, and I honestly think the Bills can win a playoff game for the first time in like 30 million years or something?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think they definitely could win a game in the wild card weekend. Once we get to the divisionals, then we'll have a conversation. But the Bills are probably going to be matched up with like the Browns or maybe the Raiders or the Dolphins. I think that's a very winnable game for Buffalo.
I mean, I'm not saying the Bills are Super Bowl contenders, because I don't believe that. I don't hear anyone believing that, to be honest. Maybe really ludicrous Bills fans. I think they're just a really good playoff team that have hopes to get far in the playoffs. But with the Chiefs and the Steelers in that conference, I don't think they're going to touch the conference championship at that point.
I mean, just to mention about Josh Allen's decision-making, he has 10 turnovers on the season and 7 interceptions and 3 fumbles. That's
right. But guess what? Russell Wilson, who everyone adores, has more interceptions than that.
And I'm not saying that Russell Wilson's atop the MVP race anymore. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league right now.
But no one expected Josh Allen to be in that conversation. Everyone just expected the Bills to be a really, really solid team, which is what they are right now. They're 7-3.
A turnover a game isn't good. That's not saying his decision making is getting better.
Okay, so you tell me that Russell Wilson is one of the top quarterbacks, yet he's having more interceptions than Josh Allen. So you're putting Josh Allen so far down. You're saying Josh Allen's decision making is awful for having less interceptions than Russell Wilson. Where is that correlating at all?
When was the last time I came on this show and said Russell Wilson's one of the top quarterbacks in the league?
You just said it like 30 seconds ago.
I said that's why I'm not classifying him as one of the top quarterbacks in the league this season. Is because of his turnovers in recent games.
Do you think Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback?
In this season, yes.
Okay, well, so he's not a top quarterback, but he's in the top 5. That's what I don't get.
Because people came into the season. Matt, you and I came onto this show and predicted a
right, but they proved me wrong.
And considered him an MVP candidate. So I'm saying that he's not one of the top in the league this season doesn't mean that I don't have him at number 5. Number 5 is fine, but there's been good quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson has had an MVP career, has had a career year for himself. And if it wasn't for his team only having 3 wins, if they had more wins, he'd 100% be in the MVP conversation.
Right.
Those 3 quarterbacks have all played better than Russell Wilson and Josh Allen. So that's why I'm saying that the turnovers are a reason why they're not one of the top quarterbacks in the year this year, and why his decision-making hasn't been getting better when he's still averaging a turnover a game.
I mean, just to be fair, if half of his turnovers were tipped, and we already talked about tipped turnovers and how you don't think it should count as interception. So why don't we just wash away those? Because I remember a couple of those that were tipped. One in the Tennessee game, and one in the LA. So that's 2 washed off. That's 5 interceptions. By your guys' claim that tip turnovers don't count.
Anyways, I think this kind of wraps up this segment. Do you guys have anything else to say?
This kid's ludicrous.
All right, that wraps up our segment. Let's hop right into the Go Picks.
Welcome back to Go Chat. We just had a pretty interesting topic last segment about the NFL, but we're gonna go right into Go Picks. We put the leaderboard up right now. We kind of have a little switch. Connor's still in first after the Rams game. Mike is in second. I slipped down to third by 1 game, and then he's catching up. Tommy's catching up. He's still in fourth, but I think he's 2 games behind me.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Don't worry. I'm going to be back at number 1 by the end. So, well, not back. I've never been number 1, but I'm going to be there for the first time.
All right. Well, we're going to start with NCAA basketball. It's finally coming back. We're all excited. We got number 1 Gonzaga versus number 6 Kansas. Pretty great game. Connor, who are you going to go with?
I haven't done a lot of research on NCAA basketball yet this year. I normally don't get into that until we're close to March Madness tournament or towards the middle of the season once we really get rankings and everything updated. But I do know both these teams are really good. I know Gonzaga has been historically good throughout their history. I'm going to go with Gonzaga in this opening game.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with Gonzaga here. I just think that they're the consensus best team coming into the season, and I think that they're going to show that against Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, what Connor said was right. I think Mark Few is a really good coach. Not that Bill Self isn't, but Mark Few has been coaching that Gonzaga team to high levels in the past few years. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I think this is going to be definitely a safe pick since you guys both pick Gonzaga because we have no idea what the heck's going to happen on Thursday. But yeah, I'm going to go with Gonzaga. Tommy, finish us off here.
I'm going to go with Kansas. I think that they're going to get a win here. I don't know. I think that the rankings preseason, they're a little subjective as they always are, but we haven't really been able to see the teams play. And I don't believe that there's been preseason games, right? So we really haven't had a chance to see the teams. I think that Kansas is going to get the win here in week 1.
I mean, let's just hope that this game plays. I mean, we've seen a couple of games being canceled in the NCAA basketball. But, of course, NCAA basketball is coming back, guys. Make sure you watch it coming up. But we got 3 headline games. Of course, Thanksgiving is Thursday. So we got the Thanksgiving matchups. Detroit is always playing on Thanksgiving. This year they're hosting the Houston Texans, not the Chicago Bears this year, but they're hosting the Houston Texans. Connor, you talked about Deshaun Watson last segment. You going to roll with him?
I absolutely am going to roll with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. I think they go into Detroit and get a good win. I think Deshaun Watson is hopefully going to get some recognition for the way he's been playing. Also, Detroit's been battling a lot of injuries. DeAndre Swift was out last week with a concussion. Kenny Galladay is still nursing a hip injury, and Danny Amendola is still nursing an injury, as well as Matt Stafford with a thumb injury. So those are all definitely things to consider. We have seen the Lions have backup quarterbacks a couple times on Thanksgiving, including last year. I can't remember the kid's name now, but there was a backup starting for Detroit last year on Thanksgiving. That could be a real possibility again this year, but I do see Houston winning this game.
It was David Blau, I think.
That is right. That is right.
I remember that guy. Mike, who are you going to roll with?
I'm going to go with the Lions here. I think DeAndre Swift and Kenny Galladay will both be back this week, and being that DeAndre Swift will be back, I just think that he's going to tear apart Houston's run defense like he did to Washington, not last week, but the week before. And just Houston has one of the worst rush defenses in that NFL. I think the Lions are going to take advantage of that.
Well, I do also just want to say that DeAndre Swift and Kenny Galladay didn't practice Monday or Tuesday, so it's not looking very likely for them to play on Thursday, but that's fine. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, Lions have been a very sorry team. They had their worst loss last week, 20-0 against the Panthers. A really competitive game against the Washington football team, and then Vikings getting blown up by the Vikings, getting blown up by the Colts. I'm going to roll with Deshaun Watson and the Texans. He looked absolutely terrific in the first half last week against the Patriots. I think he's going to come into Ford Field, a Ford Field and just dominate. I mean, I don't know the Lions' record on Thanksgiving. That'd definitely be something good to look up. But Tommy, what do you got?
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go with the Texans. I agree with you, Connor, too, as well. I think that Deshaun Watson's gonna get them the win, and they haven't played as well as people were expecting this year, but they certainly have some talented players, and I think that they're gonna get the win here on Thursday.
All right, next.
Also, DeAndre Swift did practice today. He was limited, and Galladay was limited on Monday. So I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, saying that they're out.
Right. But Galladay was limited on Monday and he didn't practice today.
Yeah,
And DeAndre Swift did not practice yesterday, and he was very limited today, was the report. And after missing last week with a concussion and on a short week, I'd be very surprised if they run him out there on Thursday after a head injury.
Okay, you guys done? All right. Next game we got coming up, Washington football team versus Dallas Cowboys. This is always a game that's being played. Obviously, Dallas plays every Thanksgiving. Mike, I wonder, do you like Dallas playing on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Well, Connor, who are you gonna go with? And then we'll go back to Mike.
I hate to go with the Cowboys, but I have to go with the Cowboys. I think Andy Dalton is ultimately going to lead the Cowboys back to a division title. As crazy as that sounds, that they're probably going to finish 6-10 and win a division title, I think the Cowboys can can stay at home against the football team and win this game.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree with Connor. I hope the Cowboys lose this game, and I want them to tank for a draft pick. But listen, Mike McCarthy
You're
smashing.
such a bad fan. You're such a bad fan.
I want them to get a good draft pick.
You don't want a division title? Come on, man.
No, we're gonna get crushed by the Bucs in the first round. What do you mean? Why would I want a division title? If we're just gonna
I don't
lose
even think the Bucs are gonna be good at this point, but
anyways, I do think
I'm sorry.
win this
I
game.
can't believe that.
Why can you believe in it? The whole Jets fan base, except you, is rooting for Trevor Lawrence and to tank.
Because I'm a real fan and I want my team to win. I'm sorry that you don't want to watch your team succeed. That's just downright wrong. But go ahead, give your pick.
Listen, okay, that's a whole different argument for a different day. I'm going with the Cowboys as well. I think they've injected some life in them after that good win against Minnesota last week. So I'm going with Dallas here.
yeah, I'm going to go with Dallas too. I didn't personally watch the game, but their offense seemed like they were somewhat clicking. Andy Dalton's finally playing at least better than he was playing before. CeeDee Lamb made that great catch. Amari Cooper, obviously Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. That offense is stacked. And honestly, Zeke looks like he's somewhat back. I'm hoping he is for fantasy sake. But Tommy, finish this off here.
I am going to go with the Cowboys. I think that Washington could get this win, but I just think that the Cowboys are slightly better and they're going to get the win on Thanksgiving Day.
All right, last game. We got a division rival. Hopefully this game is played. The Ravens have been dealing with a couple of COVID cases. But we got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Connor, do you think the Steelers' undefeated season is going to stop here?
I don't think it is. I did originally think that the Ravens were going to go in and win this game, but I just think after more thoughtful consideration and remembering how much Lamar Jackson was shut down the first time he played the Steelers, I don't think it's going to stop. And this game is in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, it's Hines.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game.
Mike, you're wearing the Ravens colors.
I'm wearing the Ravens colors, and I'm going to roll with them. Last game was very, very close. It came down to the last couple of possessions. The Ravens only lost by 4 points. And I just think the Steelers have to eventually lose. I don't think that they're going to go undefeated, and I think this is the week where they finally get that tick in the loss column, and I just think that the Ravens are going to be good enough to go out to Heinz Field and beat them.
I'm going to have to roll the Steelers. There's no signs pointing me to the Ravens. I think the Ravens are just going to be a very sorry team. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs too. And like Connor said, Lamar Jackson, it was a close game, but Lamar Jackson was not making any great throws. He had a couple of good throws. I think he had a touchdown maybe, but there's no signs pointing to me that the Steelers are going to slow down anytime yet. Tommy, you're a Steelers fan. Who are you going to roll with?
I'm going to go with the Steelers. I've been picking against them because I agree, Mike. I think that at some point they will lose one game. I think that's probably what they'll finish with, just one loss this year. But I don't think that it's going to be on Thursday. I think that they are going to beat the Ravens. While they're a talented team, I just think that the Steelers are the best team in football and they're going to get the win here on Thursday.
I mean, do we see the Steelers losing anytime soon? I don't know their exact schedule, but I honestly think they might lose to the Bills. Just if I had to pick a game out of their next coming up games, I think they have to play the Bengals again. They play Bengals on Monday night.
They play
Obviously,
the Bills, the Colts, the Steelers, and the football team. So the Colts and Browns, if they don't lose Thursday or the Bills, I think those games could be losses.
I think that sounds like a 16-0 season to me.
I don't know. I think Colts and Bills are going to really give them a run for their money, but we'll have to see at the end of the season. We'll see if Connor's right. That wraps up GOAT picks. We're heading into the GOAT of the week next, and then obviously the episode will finish and we'll wrap this up. It's kind of been a long day for all of us, so we'll see you there next. Welcome back to GOAT Chat. We're back with the GOAT of the week. Leaderboard is up right now. I won. I knew I would. I don't know why anyone even thought they would win, to be honest. I think you all said you were going to win. Rightfully so, Tommy should have won. But anyways, the leaderboard is up. I'm going to throw it to you, Connor, first. Last week you thought you were going to win. Do you think you're going to win this week?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to win this week because this player hasn't been getting recognition all year. I've said his name quite a few times throughout the episode. I'm going to say it again. It's going to be Deshaun Watson. A great game against the New England Patriots. He threw for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns and added 36 yards and another touchdown on the ground. Him and Brandon Cooks had a good connection all day. Him and Will Fuller had a few great hookups there throughout the game, and they knocked down the New England Patriots, who were looking to spurge up and maybe sneak into a wild card spot there in the AFC. But I think Houston definitely did its job, and I think it was definitely due in part to Deshaun Watson. Hopefully, he starts getting some recognition. I don't even care necessarily about the GOAT of the week. I just hope for his sake he gets some recognition because he is a dang good quarterback in the NFL. But he's my GOAT of the week.
Definitely, that's a great pick. Mike, who are you going to go with?
I'm going with Justin Herbert. He was quite impressive this week. He threw for 366 yards and 3 touchdowns, completing 37 out of 49 passes, having a quarterback rating of 89. And he was just amazing against the Jets this week. He tore them apart. A big part of that was Keenan Allen, as he almost went for 150 yards on 16 catches. But Justin Herbert was just picking the Jets defense apart all day, and he did more than enough to beat the Jets by throwing 3 touchdowns.
Another great pick. Tommy, who are you going to go with?
Yeah, those are great picks. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry this week. I can't tell you the last time that I went with somebody that wasn't related to baseball, but he had a great week against the Baltimore Ravens. The Titans won in overtime, and he scored the winning touchdown. That was his only touchdown of the day. He rushed for 133 yards, which is pretty impressive as well. He had a great game, helped them get the victory, so I'm going to have to go with him for my GOAT of the week.
I mean, I picked Justin Herbert before. I picked Derrick Henry before. So I'm glad you guys are following into my footsteps. That's definitely the right choice. But I'm going to go with Taysom Hill. We talked about him last episode. He looked absolutely phenomenal in his first game back. He was 18 for 23, 233 yards, completion percentage of 78.26, passer rating of 108.9. Also had 51 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the day rushing. So he's played an absolutely fantastic game against the Atlanta Falcons. He proved me wrong. He's looking like he was airing it out too. I'm not gonna lie. He had a really deep pass to Emmanuel Sanders. I think it might have been holding or pass interference, but still, he's looking like Lamar Jackson 2.0. I'm not gonna lie.
He was airing it out on underthrown balls by 10 yards.
I mean, dude, did you see? Obviously the play didn't count. I think it was holding or something, but he aired that ball out to Emmanuel Sanders. It was absolutely incredible. And we talked about his first game and whether we didn't know what was going to happen and whether this was going to be the right choice, starting him or Jameis Winston. I thought it was the right choice, to be honest. He looked absolutely phenomenal, and I'm confident that the New Orleans Saints will beat Denver and Atlanta. And if Breeze isn't there for Philly, they'll definitely beat Philly with Taysom starting.
All right. I think that's going to wrap up a great number, episode 54. We saw a little bit of heated stuff going on today. I haven't had some heated segments in quite some time, so it's definitely good to get back arguing with the guys here. But until Saturday, definitely enjoy your time with your family. Have a great Thanksgiving. Watch some football. Eat some amazing food, and just stay safe.
Definitely 100%. Subscribe. Go to our Instagram. Follow our Instagram. Anything else?
Nothing.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. Peace.
He's
Now
like,
you-
banana.